Good morning. This is Dr. Brian Keith Hodges, Chair for the Department of Religious Studies here at Beulah Heights University. As a part of our continual support of our faculty, staff, and students, especially in the area of their spiritual formation and development, we want to provide each week a devotional message to inspire, encourage, and motivate each segment of our institution's population. Today's devotion comes from 1 Peter chapter number 5 and verse number 7. The modern English version of scripture recalls that particular passage with these words: "Cast all your care upon him because he cares for you." And so I'd like to tag this particular text with this thought: surviving life. I don't have to ask you to reach beyond your current scope of research subjects in your search engine to help you understand that we live in a very difficult period. The last 60 days have been unprecedented. They've been unparalleled. We have witnessed and watched a number of things transpire and unfold. We have watched how one crisis, one health crisis, one global pandemic has impacted and affected every area of our lives, every area of the life cycle of our country. And with all that, there can be an occasion where we sometimes miss the fact that we are still going to survive. We have been overwhelmed with 1,000 things that we must respond to. Sometimes it appears that we have to respond to them immediately. Losing jobs, losing loved ones, losing family members and friends, losing positions and finances have seemed to wreck our focus and our concentration. And yet, this devotion centers around a faithful reminder that no matter what happens in life, we are going to survive. As a matter of fact, Peter writes to the diasporan Christians who have had to flee because of religious persecution and have lost everything. They've lost everything. They are now trying to find their footing again. And at the close of this first missive, Peter writes to them to cast all their care. Often when I read this passage, I wish I could be standing next to Peter, because I would say, "Peter, you got to be kidding. How can you tell us to cast our care when we've lost everything, left everything, and we're left with nothing?" And yet Peter responds back from antiquity to modernity, and he gives us, in my opinion, 3 particular things that will help us to cast our care. Let me begin by saying to you that the Greek rendering of the word cast means to throw. It means to, with force, remove from yourself. Peter seems to indicate that when we cast our cares, we cast or we throw them as if we are removing them from ourselves. This whole notion of care in the original Greek language means worry or anxiety or any issue that is cumbersome or overwhelming. If you put those 2 Greek renderings together, when you cast your cares, you throw everything away from you that causes anxiety, frustration, worry, anything that is cumbersome for you. And I want to suggest that when you do that, it shows the ultimate regard in faith for God. So let me begin with these 3 simple reminders for those of us who are going to survive life. If you're going to survive life, you have to cast your cares. And if you're going to cast your cares, you should do so knowing fully God's presence. Peter indicates that you should cast your cares because God's presence is present. That the God you serve, even though you are going through, is present with you. Cast your cares on him, for he cares for you. Your God's presence is present. One would only have to peruse the Old Testament, and within the first few chapters, you would realize that our present God is full in his presence in every layer of our lives. I think this is interesting because until we are willing to acknowledge God, we will never be able to rid ourselves of the difficulties, the worries, the stresses, the anxieties that show up in our lives. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6 says, without faith it is impossible to please him or please God, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. God's presence. Here's the next one. God's power. That we cast our care on a God who has the power to handle our cares. He has the power to catch our cares. He has the power to handle our cares. He has the power to manage our cares, and he has the power to lift us up as we cast our cares on him. It's not just his presence, but it's also his power. One of the things that I love is that the God we serve is not weak or beggarly. He is not emaciated. He is not worried. He is the God of all strength and all power. As a matter of fact, the center and circumference of power is God. He is omnipotent. He is all powerful. Here's the third and final thing. That we cast our cares on him because he cares for us, not only because of his presence, not only because of his power, but because of his provision. Cast all your cares on him, for he cares for you. It's almost as if Peter is suggesting to these diasporan Christians that there is an invitation from God to give our concerns to him. I was in a doctor's office a few years ago waiting to see my doctor, my general practitioner, and I noticed a scene unfold in the waiting room. There was a small area where a young child was playing with toys provided for the doctor's office. And the mother looks over as she's flipping through her magazine, and she realized that there was a sharp edge on a toy from where a piece of that toy was missing, torn off, broken off, I don't know which. And she reaches for the toy, but her child begins to whine about it. Her child begins to pull back against her mother's reach for the toy. And I wondered to myself, does this child not know that there's a sharp edge? And the truth is that child probably did not know. And the mother finally stood up and grabbed the toy from the child to avert that child cutting themselves, and the child fell out kicking, screaming, and crying. It was the most challenging scene. And in that moment, my mind began to think about my context. How often has God wanted to reach for stuff from us, but we would not give it to him? We were not designed to carry worry or anxiety or anger or frustration. And yet, when God reached for it because God knows that it's going to hurt us or damage us, we often have fits of rage like this little child. Here's what Peter's admonition is. His admonition is that we cast it, we throw it, we give it. Once that child realized that his mother was doing something to help her, that child stopped fighting and fussing with her mother, cuddled up next to her mother, and let her mother comfort her. That's my conclusion. Maybe the story here is that we're going to survive life because of God's presence, God's power, God's provision, but not just that. We're going to survive life because God is going to allow us to cuddle up next to him and commune with him. And in that moment, all the things that we thought we had to carry, we could release to him. To that one that belongs all glory, all honor, and all power forevermore. Father, take these words and take our time and remind the people of this community and of communities that will share this devotion that they are going to survive life because you are present, and because of your presence, because of your power, because of your provision. In Jesus' name, amen. Please continue to join us each week as we seek to inspire and encourage you and lift your spirits. God bless you. It is my great joy to send this message to you. First, to tell you that we love you, we value you, and that we want our deepest and best wishes to flow your way. Your life is important to us, and we believe that God has put us together for a reason. I believe that reason is kingdom ministry. Beulah University hosts a spiritual formative exercise each week on its campus in our chapel called Chapel. We have worship together. It's public worship. It gives us a chance to come together and hear the word of the Lord, but it also gives us a chance to respond to the word of the Lord in our giving. Beulah Heights has continued to be for 102 years a giving institution. And because we are a giving institution, we always look for causes to support. Beulah Heights University has been supporting churches and missions and startups around the country and abroad. Because of the interruption of our sheltering in place and quarantine orders, we have not taken offerings so that we can continue our outreach and missionary efforts. I want to challenge you today, if you would, go to Beulah Heights University's website. That's bhu.edu. Go to bhu.edu and give. bhu.edu/donate now is the fastest way to give. Give to Beulah Heights for 3 reasons. Number 1, because our institution is still ministry and mission focused. Number 2, give to Beulah Heights because we have a lasting impact. The sun, as Dr. Keeler so eloquently places it, the sun never sets on a Beulah Heights University grad. 15,000 alums that populate this world that are doing world-class ministry. But the third and final reason, giving is a reward for faithfulness. When I give, I'm being rewarded for my faithfulness. So I want to ask you to join us today. Beulah.edu/donate now. Thank you, thank you, thank you.